Well, hello, and welcome to Ask the Unicorn. I'm Ahura Z, and I'll be your host this evening, just like I'm your host every evening. Now, we are still working with some of the things live, and we're just learning about it, so please be patient with us. Anyway, I am ready to answer any questions, and I will answer any and all questions that have to do with the metaphysical, the spiritual, the mystical, paranormal, even though they are all the same. So let's start off with one question. It says, what are the Akashic records? What you actually mean is to ask is, what is the Hall of Akashic records? The Akashic records are a record of everything that has ever happened and everything that will ever happen with you and everyone else. It is all of your connections that you will have within your lifetimes, all of your lifetimes in a collective. Those lifetimes that have already happened and those lifetimes that have yet to happen. Well, there's a place for those. It's called the Hall of Akashic Records. Now, you can't really think of it as a place as much as a way of being or a being. It's kind of like a giant, the most huge library you could ever imagine. Your records have everything to do with you, and everything to do with all the people that you will come in contact with and how they've affected you and how you've affected their lives. Now, it's really interesting that someone would ask that particular question, because not many people actually ask about the Akashic records. They are usually coming up with some type of a thing to tell about their story and what they think about the Akashic records. In answer to your question, it is a place where everything about you is kept, the information, kind of like a record. I don't mean like, it's a tally of everything. It's just what it is. And this is from Adriana. Who is Ragnarok? Okay, Adriana's been watching Kenichi. It would be more appropriate, Adriana, to ask, what is Ragnarok? In Nordic mythological lore, it is the end day, or the end time, when the final battle to decide whether or not we will exist will happen. And remember, this is in Nordic mythology. Everyone has their form of what we call end times, if you will, and that would be Nordic, the end battle, the greatest battle, in other words. It's really interesting. Who is Ragnarok? I guess in a way you could call all of the Nordic gods, or that particular pantheon that have to do with Ragnarok, more than who Ragnarok is. Although in anime, Ragnarok is a group of gangs that everyone is afraid of. A particular type of a gang that everyone is afraid of. This particular series that she's talking about is called Kenichi, and it's a good series. I recommend it for those of you that are anime fans. Now, here is another question. How can a person improve their patience? Good question. One of the ways that you can improve your patience is to see the patience is not waiting for anything. Excuse me. Patience is active. Patience is one of those things that takes one step at a time. You must find a way to discipline yourself and see that when you're wanting something to happen, it's not necessarily waiting if you're following the steps in order to cause it to happen. In other words, if there's something that you want and you feel as though you're waiting for your chance to do something, it would be best for you to do all that you can where you are towards that goal, rather than to see it as waiting. Patience always is active, one step at a time towards the goal. Now, what are some disciplines that may help? Do something every single day towards your goal. Something. Anything. As long as it is towards the goal that you are trying to accomplish, and you are not being anxious about it, and you are not expecting something to happen, you're just moving towards your goal, or the goal that you said that you want to accomplish in your life. You are disciplining yourself and you're exercising patience. Now, let me explain something about discipline while I'm on this particular subject. Discipline, as I have learned it, is freedom. In other words, the freedom to do something. There is nothing that you can do in this life that does not take some form of discipline, no matter what anyone says to you, even if you're naturally talented. Natural talent plus discipline equals a master. Do you understand? If you want to learn to play the guitar, for instance, you have to practice. Even if you have the affinity or the predilection to play that particular instrument, you still have to have enough discipline to do something with that particular instrument as much as you possibly can. What that does is it will enable you to be free enough to know how to play that particular instrument. And that goes towards anything that a person says that they want to do. You can't sit up and say, you know, I really want to master film, yet never pick up a camera. You know, I know what I see in my head, and I know what I want done, but you've never picked up a camera. You've never tried. That there's no discipline involved there. And then what happens is that just causes you to be impatient, and then you finally get a camera, but because you haven't done anything, you won't skip that step. You have to practice. You have to do something. Rather than get upset about it and say what you can't do. Well, you know, I want to do film, but I really don't think I have the talent to do that. But perhaps you have the discipline to do it. So do something every single day. For instance, real simple, anything. If I want to learn how to put a battery into my remote controller, I have to read instructions, or at least I have to see someone else do it and then do it myself. And then have the discipline to make sure that my controller doesn't run out of batteries. It's even that simple. Even sweeping a floor takes discipline. And in a way, we all do have the predilection for discipline. All we have to do is exercise it. So, patience is active, and discipline is freedom. Oh, one more thing. One of the most important lessons that I did learn is when you're exercising your patience and discipline, try not to have any expectations. See, if you don't have expectations, you'll have complete fulfillment. You're not expecting anything. So what you do get is fulfilling. Let's see. How do you increase your patience when dealing with other people rather than yourself? It's the same method. I mean, you have to be patient with yourself before you can be patient with anyone. But that doesn't mean that you can't try to be disciplined enough to do both at the same time. That leads me to another thing that I was taught very early on. Give what you need the most. If you need patience, then give patience. Have patience with others. See them as being in a learning process as well. Do you understand? You have to see that everyone is in their own private learning process. And you must be patient with everyone. Try to. Even when you want to get mad at someone because they said something, you know, just totally snarky to you, take a moment and say, you know, perhaps this person is going through something. That doesn't mean sit up and just take them being that way. It says to try to exercise some level of patience. Remember, you don't always have great days either. You know, so maybe that person is just not having the best day. Don't go haul off and throw them in the garbage can or anything. Take a moment. Take a deep breath. Find your happy place and be patient with them. Okay. What is a poltergeist and how is it different from a spirit or a ghost? It's not. Okay, first, again, let's separate spirit and ghost. Remember, a ghost is merely the remnant of something that once was. A spirit is actually living, moving, even though it doesn't have a body. Now, what poltergeist literally means is noisy ghost or noisy spirit, if you will. Okay, it's something that has been trumped up to be something very, very scary, very foreboding, and very terrorizing, but it's not. It's simply a noisy ghost, really. That's all it is. A noisy spirit or a noisy ghost. It's kind of like that one thing that happens all the time in your pipes that goes bing, 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 and you think that all of a sudden there's a ghost there, when it could just be because of the way that it's clogged. When water does hit it en masse, it just, you know, causes things to shake. Well, it's much the same way. Perhaps this particular entity or this particular person was very, 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 very noisy, and they concentrated on one particular type of a noise. For instance, like a blacksmith. Well, that blacksmith's living is in making noise. And then if that blacksmith does leave behind an energy print, then that energy print is also going to make noise. No, I'm sorry. You don't need to go find a little dwarven lady to tell people to go into the light. No giant skeleton is going to come out of the closet and wrap someone in their own braces. Okay? It's very simple. A noisy ghost. Now, whether or not that noisy ghost or spirit is malevolent is something entirely different. But, in answer to your question, there is no difference. It's the same thing. It's just one is noisy. And perhaps one is not. So, poltergeist. Noisy ghost. Okay? I hope that answers that particular question. Okay, this is for Brad, Nadine, or Bradine as we like to call them. Hello Z, please, can you tell me what the difference is between a pentagram and a hexagram? And are they used for evil? No, not both are. And depending upon who you talk to, neither one necessarily is used for evil. However, the pentagram is the right side up star, hexagram is upside down star. When you're talking about gram, you're merely talking about writing. Okay? Now, whenever we see horror movies, we always see the upside down star, and we say, oh my God, it's evil. Why? Because it looks like horns, and then there's a little point like a mustache, so forth. But listen, we've got to step out of just meanings of things that we have seen on television. If you really want to put it to task, listen, that star was representative of the symbology of man, and also the symbology of magic, and also the symbology of life. Now, if you look at it, 5 extremities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Symbol of man. Great artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and people who are actually into mysticism try to show everyone that. Now, when someone uses that particular symbol in an upside down fashion, what they're basically saying is, we want to see the opposite of what that represents. Now, in paranormal venture, one can be used to push out, and one can be used to draw in. Now, that one that is right side up can be used to push out, and the one that is upside down can be used to draw in. Do you understand? Depending upon what it is that you're doing. And what we're talking about here is basic mysticism and sorcery even. If you want something to go that is negative to be pushed, you use the upside down. If you want something to be trapped, you use, you use the right side up for a push, and you use the upside down to trap. Or as many of us like to say, bind. However, I wouldn't recommend binding anything, because the only thing that you can do is bind it to yourself. So it would be far better for you to banish it. But one is for quote-unquote positive, dark or evil, or quote-unquote positive light or white magic, and one is used for dark magic or evil or negative. Now, what is the difference between mind reading and telepathy? Mind reading is something that a person does when they are looking to guess what another person is thinking. And although a telepath is capable of such things, we do have very strong principles as to not doing it. The mind is the most sacred place that you have, and it would be against a metaphysical law and principle to invade a person's mind. Now, when it comes to mind reading, many of us look at that as a cheap parlor trick. You know, just kind of like there are a lot of prestidigitators and people that will guess probability and maybe even use some other method to figure out what a person is thinking or what is they may be thinking about, but they will usually lead that person to think about a certain thing so they can just kind of pluck it out of that. There are a lot of old school quote-unquote magicians that would do that particular type of thing. I'm not interested in what a person is thinking unless I have to. And I, as a general rule, don't read a person's mind. It can cause them great pain, and can also cause them utter confusion. However, for those of you out there that think that they're the same thing, and I'm reading about 3 people that actually believe that on several of the same thing, you're wrong. Telepathy doesn't depend upon a person's energy or anything that a person is thinking in order to say what's going on. And one has to do with how a person is thinking. Now, in the event that I have to do some specific work, I have been known to, when a couple of times I've had to go in and help a person back from a coma, I had to go into their mind. Other than that, under no circumstances do I. What is the meaning behind Om Mani Padme Hum? Om. And what's it used for? It's used for many things. Some people use it for not telepathy. Some people use it for prosperity, others for protection, others simple meditation to help them to feel better about things. Now, I do know that if you have the right intent, this particular mantra works. Now, I am not well versed in Hindi, although I know some people that are learning or attempting to learn that really should be disciplined about it. But I can tell you the general energy of this particular thing. And the general energy of this particular thing is positivity and light. And to bring positivity to a person, you would do really, really good if you need some help in some area, even a physical area, even if it's in disciplining your body, finding a place that is clear in your mind, trying to bring some healing towards you, and to receive prosperity to use this particular mantra. I do know that it works. Okay, and the most I can think is that it has to do with calling upon the powers of the universe to bring forth the energy to fix what needs to be fixed. Okay. Now, if there are any more questions about some other mantras, I understand the energy of these mantras. While I may not be able to necessarily translate the words unless I wanted to look it up in a book like anybody else, I can tell you what it is they're about. What is the original meaning behind the Christmas tree and decorating it? And so how can you clean the tree while putting it together and decorating it? Well, there are a lot of different schools of thoughts on the original, but I would imagine that it had to do with the tree of life, with showing growth and prosperity and bounty, and putting things on that particular tree that represent family, to represent home and hearth and life. The decorations came, I would imagine, it used to just be candles. In fact, I know that for a fact. It did used to just be candles, and then later on it became food, different sweets, different decorations to show the bounty that people had, and to show the prosperity and to welcome in the prosperous spirit. Because remember, this particular day was supposed to represent the Mass of Christ, or the birth of Christ, and later on became commercial. And the pine trees, which I happen to really love, and would be far more pleased if I just got the living pine tree and it was not cut. But commercialism has its place, what can I say? I can tell you that you can just make sure that the tree is comfortable, keep it watered, make sure it's misted. If you're going to have electric lights on it, make sure that those lights are... I prefer LED lights. I mean, the incandescents are very, very pretty, but so are the LEDs. And if you're going to do any type of decoration, make sure that decoration has to be from the heart, and it has to do with everyone in the family that is going to decorate it. Make sure that you're all participating in it. And you can change what you think about the whole meaning of using a tree. And one way is by using that tree all the time. Maybe even grow your own Christmas tree. And then make sure that it stays growing. Now eventually it's probably going to get very, very tall. But you can always plant it and then start the whole process again. The tree, in my eyes, represents the family. And represents what it is you stand for. Okay. Have some good music and a lot to eat and a lot to drink. And make it one of those events that's going to be fun. Why just candles? Because candles represent the spirit. And, you know, I would say it's a very, very good discipline because you'd have to really watch what it is that you're doing. Otherwise, everything would go up in flames. And we don't want that, do we? So, mind yourself. Okay? Adriana wants to know the importance of your birthstone. Because it's a mineral representation of what it is that you are, who you are, the date that you were born. And to a degree, it does have some power. But remember, if you were born someplace where your particular birthstone is happening or growing, you might as well just leave it on the ground. But if you want to wear it as a physical representation of your particular sign, try to keep it private. Everyone doesn't need to know your business. Just, you know, you get your birthstone, put it someplace that's private for you. Kind of like I do with my greenstone. Okay? I wear it on the inside. It's just part of who I am. And, you know, not everybody needs to know what your birthstone is. Mostly it's just socialism. Hey, what's your birthstone? Why? Are you going to give me a reading? You know, it's for you specifically. And even then, those particular birthstones were thought up by people in order to give them something to think about on their birthday. I think about eating on my birthday. And my birthstone is the last thing I ever think about. But there are people who really like that. It's very important to some people and not so important to others. But if it's going to be important to you, then make sure it's a private experience for you and you alone. Good question. Okay. That brings about another point. You know how people love to read their horoscopes? I actually call them horror scopes. Listen, if you really want to know about astrology, you really want to know what's happening with astrology, my suggestion is for you to find a good astrologer and ask them. Most of us that are real astrologers, kind of get a little bit offended when someone says, oh, you know, my horoscope says blah, 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 blah. And all we can really do is look at you and say, well, that's nice. You know, kind of like looking at the Grand Canyon and just kind of nodding your head and say, oh, great, big hole. You know, just go to a real astrologer. And please keep your astrological experience to yourself. You know, your astrological makeup is like a map. It says everything that there is to know about you. Every single thing that there is. Even right down to the half seconds. Even down to the quant, the half quant even. You know, everything is accounted for in your astrological chart. Don't just leave it anywhere. Don't go telling everybody what your birthstone is, because what they'll do is go find out from somebody else and get you a birthstone and, you know, say that you've got a psychic connection, you know, things like that. I think very psychically defensively, and I suggest that everyone do so. At the same time, it doesn't mean for you to be hostile or anything. Just when you learn things, you learn that there's some things that people should know and some things that people should not know. But when it comes to birthstones, honey, that's solely up to you. And I hope you get a nice birthstone. And I promise I will not ask you, you know, hey, do you know what that means? Okay, this is from Mindy K. What are the rods of light in my photos, as well as when I see them with my own eyes? In order for me to properly answer that question, I'd have to see the photos. Okay. The rods of light in your photo could be anything, even a play with a lens. I'm not saying that they could not be something, but at the same time, they could not be something. You know, so many of us have nice cameras, and then we'll see a reflection and think that it is one thing when it really is not. Other times we may miss something entirely that is actually happening. So perhaps in my private website you can, you know, ship that particular picture to me and I can tell you. Okay. What do I know about alpha biotics? By that particular name, nothing. Remember, we have a lot of names to things. However, if you told me what the alpha biotics are, that's something a little different. I've heard all kinds of terms for things that I've done for years. For instance, I have practiced energy shifting forever, but then later on, you know, someone told me that was called Reiki, And I said, oh, you mean just moving the energy so that you could not maintain a really bad injury? And they said, well, it's shifting the energy. Well, I've done that all my life. It wasn't anything to me. So your questions are very specific that not many people even know about. And like I said, when you come up with a particular question like that, it would be best for you to send that to my private website, and I can answer you that way. Okay. How does a person's fear affect their susceptibility to paranormal influences? And how can a person control their fear when something really scares them? Great question. When it comes to paranormality, depending upon the nature of the paranormality, fear acts kind of like fuel for that particular thing. Remember, fear is one of the strongest emotions you can muster, even stronger than love, what we call love sometimes. Fear is one of those things that can shake you to your very core, depending upon the situation. Now, it can cause you to be very susceptible to paranormal influence. Sometimes it can cause you to be so susceptible to that paranormal influence that it can cause an alteration in your physical being, which is something that you don't necessarily want. Now, how can a person control their fear when something really scares them? You've got to see that you are bigger than your fear. You've got to see that you are bigger than that thing that is causing you to be afraid. You have to dig down deep, and you have to find something that is going to tell you there is no reason to fear. All fear will do is cause you to make a mistake. And it will cause you to do nothing when something needs to be done. Or it will cause you to mistakenly do something when nothing needs to be done. It is your fear that needs to be expunged. And I know that we hear lots of philosophical things that say that a person should have a healthy fear. First off, there is absolutely nothing healthy about fear. If you're talking about being nervous about something, or you have a little bit of trepidation, okay, that's fine. But what you do is you reach out. When you're experiencing fear, you have to, one, reach into yourself and say, look, the way that I'm acting is doing absolutely no good. Two, find someone that can support you in your confidence. Three, understand that there's always something that will try to cause fear or stir some type of fear in you. And understand that you are not the only one. And then seek out someone that is willing to listen to you. Seek them out. Don't stand there and punish yourself. Remember, fear seeks to isolate, to alienate, and to freeze. Do everything against it. In order for that to happen, one, you're going to have to show some patience. Two, you're going to have to learn to discipline yourself. Three, you're going to have to see that there's so much at our disposal that will alleviate fear. And four, you're going to have to learn to not tell everyone what makes you afraid. And start telling yourself those things that make you feel peaceful and joyful. That will enable you to stand up in the face of those things that are trying to cause you fear. I might also suggest that you do away with negative programming as much as you can. There's so much negativity in the pond now. It is overflowing. You don't need that. You need something that is going to help fill the pool of positivity. Try to be positive. There are people that are provided for you, that have enough positivity for them and you. Find those people. Take some steps. Okay? What is the meaning of the tattoo on your face? If I may ask that. Well, you just did. So I'm going to tell you. This is called Tamoko. I am half Maori. Being half Maori and being the warrior that I am, I needed this to signify who I am and my people. And you see it up close. for that. That's a good question, actually. Many people will look at the 800-pound elephant in the room and never ask a question. You know, like, what's that thing on your face? You know, I appreciate that, and it's okay that you ask. I will anytime be happy to explain it to people. Now, this is a real tattoo. This is not one of the little things that you see on people who couldn't possibly belong to anybody's tribe. If you look, they are not just one blunt mark. These are individual lines, and some of them are just hatch marks, but the other ones are up to 5 different lines. So you might say I had to get this tattoo probably about 5 times, twice, and it is a signification of a warrior, and has to do with my culture. And although I found out that I was a part of this particular culture as a young adult, I do as much as I can to know about it, and I'm tackling learning the language now. I appreciate the asking. If you go to New Zealand, you see a lot of people that look like me, only they have it on their whole face. Let's see. You recommend physical exercise when people are experiencing paranormal issues. What does physical exercise have to do with our spiritual selves? Everything. Absolutely everything. This body is what you were given to house your spirit. And it needs to stay densified. And exercise makes sure that your body stays densified. It makes sure that you stay strong enough to handle that massive energy that each one of us have been given. So yeah, physical exercise is recommended. Even if you're a person that is handicapped, such as a paraplegic or quadriplegic, there are certain exercises and therapy that will be done in order to make sure that your body at least has the opportunity to heal. And I've seen quadriplegia healed personally. And I've seen paraplegia healed personally, but there was always exercise involved. Remember, it is important for each one of us to stay strong as we possibly can. Now, that doesn't mean go find a way to inject yourself with steroids and turn into a mad person. But it does mean keep your physical body densified. That adds up to protection. That adds up to making sure that you stay grounded when you're exercising your spiritual disciplines, so you don't all of a sudden sound like you're in Wonderland someplace and not effective in this world. Besides, you can't work with no physical body. You can't do anything. You can't even do things pleasurable on a physical level without being strong to some degree. You know? So yeah, strength is necessary. Dexterity is necessary. Common sense is necessary. If you're doing things that hurt your body, stop. It's that simple. You can tell me it's not easy if you want to. Yes, it is. You just have to make the decision to do it, and then stand by your guns. Okay? So yeah, it has everything to do with your spiritual selves. Remember, spiritual self, physical self, one being. Okay. Which does bring about a point. Remember, even the martial arts themselves were brought on as a spiritual exercise, not just physical. To exercise the mind and the body. It's really important. I mean, you can know many martial arts moves yet have no discipline and no spiritual thought about them, and all you'll do is destroy. And no one wants that kind of person around. No one. The more spiritual you are, the more physical you are, the more spiritual you should be. The more spiritual you are, the more physical you can be. Now listen, let me tell you the very first rule of spirituality. That is reality. We live in a third-dimensional physical world. While that does not say that you can't ascend to great spiritual heights, in order for you to ascend to those spiritual heights, you must discipline this body. Because it doesn't want to do anything. It gets in the way of everything. If you let it. Even St. Francis used to call it brother ass because it didn't want to do anything. Sorry, I said the A word. Anyway, you have to understand You can't realize anything on a spiritual level if you haven't realized anything on a physical level. Okay. In places like hotels, dorms, can the energy impressions left behind by the many sleepers from a portal over time form a portal over time? Can you protect yourself when staying in one? Yes, clean the place. Clean the place. Okay? I understand colleges and dorms because I've been in many of them, and they have many, many vibrations. And you clean the place. You cleanse the place however you can, or get someone to come in and cleanse your place. Make some rules in your dorm. Okay? These things can happen here. These things cannot happen here. And then have someone like myself come and do a formal cleansing. And that's how you can protect yourself. Also, I've already given you steps on how to protect yourself psychically. Use them. They work. Okay? Just realize that it's the same in anyone's home. Even if you go to visit someone. Hotels, motels, it's always the same. Make sure that it's clean. If you detect something in a hotel that you were paying for, then make sure it's clean. You can always perform a nice ritual, in which I will teach you all in later times. It'd be a great idea for you to learn these things. Keep a LED light small. If they allow you to light candles, light a white candle. Make sure you've eaten. Make sure you're not sleeping in the clothes that you were out and about cavorting with people. And, just follow simple steps. Hello, Gira. How are you, dear? What do the colors gold and purple represent separately and when they are worn together? Especially if you suddenly find yourself with the urge to wear them all the time. Now, individually, I've taught you all what these colors mean. Gold, which is mediation, also the Christ vibration and royalty. And purple, which is royalty, wisdom, power, and strength. So you have those together. What it is that you are seeking an expanded vibration. Remember, gold, which is also represented by Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter being expansion and government, and then purple, which is represented by Uranus, and also Aquarius, which is the group. Okay, so you're talking about group consciousness and holding on to the majesty that you know that you have decided that you claim for yourself, whether you're alone or in a group. If you're wearing these two particular colors, then what you're looking at is royalty. So I would dare say that you're kind of finding yourself and finding that you deserve exactly how it is that you feel. I mean, if you are seeing yourself in a royal vein and you want to wear these colors all the time, then by all means, they can only help you. Knowing you personally, it would fit. Now, this is Mindy. What is the point of eating beef jerky, like you told me to do? I am sure that it helped. But how? What you mean is, what is the process of it? It helps to densify the body again. And it also keeps you grounded. Really interesting. When it comes to things like beef jerky, there are many schools of thought on it. There are people that don't eat meat, and there are people who do eat meat. And neither one of them really matter when it comes down to a psychic attack. You do what is necessary to end the attack. Now what this does is it gives you proof against, which is highly interesting because leather also has this wonderful quality of blocking a psychic inference. Okay? Or a psychic attack. It actually hampers it. Now, the whole process as to that, it would probably take me about an hour and a half to actually explain. It has something to do with the chemical composition and also the energy that it emits and the energy that it does block. It also has to do with the density. Now, since you're eating this particular thing, what happens is that it attributes to your own density, plus the salt that is used to do, which has also been known to block witchcraft, especially errant witchcraft. And if you take those, it helps to densify things so that your molecular structure has been enhanced by what it is you eat. Beef being one of the more denser of foods. It is really quite interesting how that actually happens. But it does work. Now, if you want the scientific proof or the scientific information as to why this actually works, you'll have to consult someone other than me. They can probably tell you that. I just know that it works on a metaphysical level and also tastes really good. Let's see. What does the color blue represent as to the last question? Well, blue represents many things. Emotions, changing emotions, feelings. Sometimes it can represent healing, and in many cases love, or interesting, it does represent love. But what people use when they're talking about love is pink. There's also communication, and it represents telepathy. So it can be so many different things. Now, what you're looking for, if you're talking about the beef jerky, you're looking for some type of a psychic imprint, which doesn't necessarily have to do with the beef jerky, as it has to do with your feeling something, which means that you're probably a fourth circuit type of a being, which means that most things matter to you on an emotional level, which is why you attract those things. Okay? Which means that there is a strong representation of Cancer in you, and also Neptune. Okay? Neptune, which has to do with feelings, changes, emotions. Anything that has to do with the water, really. Now, that's not just because of the mythological reason, but it has to do with the actual energy of Neptune. Okay? Hi, Tina. How are you? What does it mean when you dream of babies? My other dream was about a rattlesnake shedding its skin. Well, it can mean many things. A baby can usually either mean birth or death. Also, you have a new grandson, and you could be dreaming in a way about that particular person, but it also can mean just the beginning of something, or the end, or perhaps there's an idea, or someone is pregnant. Yeah, but usually, since this particular thought is coming off as kind of brown, it has to do with your foundation. So I'm going to say this on a physical level. Either someone's either thinking about children, or the child has been born, and it definitely has a physical inference. So I'm going to say that this has to do with you picking up the vibration that someone either wants children, or wanted children, or is having a child or had one. Your other was about a rattlesnake shedding. Again, so that makes sense. That has to do with you beginning something new. In other words, you're shedding the old you so that you can see what's underneath. That's pretty good, actually. That's a good thing, and that's something you want to focus on. When it comes to shedding the skin, you're merely taking off the old personality, the old thoughts, the old feelings, and beginning something entirely new. So that would be the inference of the baby. Now, this is from a YouTube viewer. You speak very badly of demons, and I would have to argue with you, with your expertise on the subject. I was wondering if you knew about how these beings came into existence. Well, that's great. Everyone has their opinion about demons, and I don't speak very badly about demons. I speak matter-of-factly about demons, depending upon the nature of what we call demon. First, you have to examine whether or not there is an actual demon. And if there is no making a deal with it. There is no being a demon's friend. It is simply what it is, a malevolent being. Perhaps this is a being that was born that way, or created that way, or a being that made a choice when it came to divinity. And whether a person agrees with my expertise or not really doesn't matter to me. I know what I know. I don't believe in anything. And these beings could have come into existence many different ways. Even an astral being can elevate itself to a demonic form, depending upon the density or the amount of their negativity. Now, if you find some demons that are great, wonderful. I have yet to. Now, which brings about another point. When people see these things, many times we like to say this is a demon or that is a demon and everything is a demon. That's not necessarily always true. Whenever someone sees something different, they call it a demon. I'm speaking of a specific being when I say a demon, something that has been acknowledged as a demon, not something that I happened to see that was unusual and I just called it a demon. One of the chief things that makes me an expert is my level of discernment. I can tell the difference between a demon and an angel, even if that demon was once an angel and decided to be that which we call a demon. There have been some demons that have been transformed into angels, depending upon their nature, and that's something that's not up to me. However, if you like demons, then by all means, hang out with them. I'm sure they would like you too. But if you want to hang out with those beings that cannot be defined as demon or angel, they're readily available as well. Now, do the pictures on my walls reflect the energy of my room? Or do the picture of your walls reflect the energy of your room? What about the picture in another person's house when you visit? How do you keep the energy from affecting you if you don't like it? Don't go into their house. Real simple. If you don't like it, don't go into their house. You can't really go in there and tell them you don't like their pictures. It's their house. You know, just don't go there. And you can tell them, look, I'm not comfortable. The pictures that you have in your home are not really jiving with me, so I need to not be there. No offense, and I'm sure you would feel the exact same way. And it's as simple as that. And the pictures do reflect the energy of the person. It depends. I mean, if you look behind me, I'm a very peaceful person, but behind me, I have Kratos. Yes, Kratos, the god of war. But, you know, I also have a poster from a movie and a unicorn back there, too. So it doesn't necessarily mean a lot, except for I loved the game, God of War. And the unicorn represents my nature, and the picture of the movie, poster of the movie, represents the very first movie that actually premiered in Boston, and I was very proud of that. I can always do better, yes, but there are people that have dragons in their rooms or different waterfalls or whatever they have. That's their choice. You know, I think it's best to just be and allow others to be. Okay, this is Amanda and my goddaughter, Teresa. Hi. Does every person really have their own guardian angel? Do the angels watch over multiple people or just one? It's not their own guardian angel. That particular angel may be assigned to them. Or that particular angel may have been sent to them to show them something. And I always look at it this way. We like to say that we have armies of angels. Well, if the angel's any good, you just need one. You know, sometimes they guard multiple people. Sometimes just one. All of those are very valid questions, and the only answers that I have for you is that, look, we do have guardian angels. And I know you, Amanda. You've been through some very hairy things. That's a question that you should know the answer to. You definitely had someone watching over you. Okay. And this is Nancy. What does it mean when a bird hits your when a bird hits your window or door? Because it seems that every time one hits someone seems to die that I know. Oh, interesting. Well, many have looked at that as a portent of death, like you say. But sometimes it's a really stupid bird. And, you know, we've seen them. Other times, it could mean that someone's about to die, or it could mean that something bigger is happening. We used to call those omens, you know. And as Americans, we're always looking for omens of something or another. If someone always dies that you know, then when it does happen, just prepare yourself for that event. But don't X out the fact that birds are pretty clumsy sometimes, just like we are. Let's see. Now, I want to get back to something. When you are growing spiritually, there's always going to be someone that sees things differently from you. And that's fine. Everyone is allowed that. What you need to do is just, and this is concerning the person about demons, it really doesn't matter to me that you disagree with me. I don't care. But you should at least investigate. And when you've investigated and you've said that you've actually met a demon, because from what I've seen, you've never met one, so you really don't have a clue as to what it is that you're saying. at least find out what they're about before you disagree. Okay. This is from Kenzie. Hi, Kenzie. Long time no see, kid. Why do mothers tend to be more protective of their sons than their daughters? Yeah, interesting question, considering that your brother's a Marine, and considering that you're the youngest daughter who doesn't always get her way, and you believe that your mother's any less protective of you. This is not the case at all. There are different expressions, different nuances. Do you understand of relationships? Many times I've seen the mother and son have a wonderful relationship, and then the mother and daughter, mostly because they're just alike, have a relationship that's at odds with each other. But then I can say the same for fathers and sons and fathers and daughters. I am a sucker for daughters, and I have no idea how I'd act with a son because I don't have one. I have godsons, and we have an equal amount of fun. But in your particular case, Kenzie, it's not that she's more protective. Your dynamic is different. Do you understand? And you're at a very awkward age. That awkward age will cause you to see things a little differently. I promise that at some point in time you'll understand. And there's an old story that goes with this particular thing here, you know, and I'll tell it to you sometime. It has to do with not getting your way and thinking that someone else has gotten their way, okay, with the parent, right? But they're not more protective, darling. It's just a different dynamic. And besides, even if you feel that way, you got plenty of people that are around you that love you, okay? But I happen to know for a fact your mother loves you and would do anything to protect you, okay? Now, this is from Mindy again. My grandson is in my custody now. He is 3. Could anything attach themselves to him from where he has been? It's a possibility. There's a great possibility, but based upon your care and love that I am detecting here, I think that you would be his greatest protection. And since you are his greatest protection, you'll make sure that since he's had extraordinary things happen, that you will be extraordinary. Okay? And any way that I can help, let me know. See, what is the difference between gods and demigods and angels? Are they different cultures, representations of the same thing? Are angels only Christian, or do other faiths have angels? Yes, other faiths do have angels. They may call them different things. Remember, the angels don't necessarily call themselves angels. That's something we gave to them. What is the difference between gods, demigods? Okay, a god is a god, a supreme being. A demigod is kind of a half god. Okay? In other words, part God and part human, as I know. The angels are a form of demigod, if you will. It would be best to just relate to everybody as the same. It has very little to do with their culture as it has to do with what we want them to be called. Now, if you go to a place like India, they're very, very affluent in the knowledge of demigods and gods and goddesses, and other places are as well. In this particular culture, we think of things as, you know, God, Christ, angel, saint, etc. But they're all pretty much the same thing. Do you understand? It all has to do with earth or human, and then various stages to reach divinity, which is something that I believe we should all aspire to. Not necessarily that we will all become gods, because according to Christ, he said himself that we already are gods, you know, whatever that means. So perhaps it's our perspective on what a god is, or what a demigod is, or what an angel is, okay? But yeah, all faiths have an angel or an angelic type. They just may call it something entirely different. Exactly how does a baby get a soul? When does it happen? Interesting. It's a good question. You know, I think that we concern ourselves too much with what babies get. You understand? We all have souls. Now, when that child reaches a certain level of development, inside its mommy's tummy, it receives that. Now, there are those that like to argue the fact and say, well, you know, they receive a soul as soon as they're gestated. That's not necessarily true. And, you know, there's this, well, how would you know? Because I've seen them. I have not only seen them, I've been the instrument by which they came. I have had the honor to deliver a child into the womb of the mother on a spiritual level, and it's really quite interesting how that happens. Please don't ask me how I got the ability to do that. I only do what I'm told by the universe. I am a servant. They say to do something, I do it. Bottom line. Now, when it comes to that particular thing, usually at about 2.5 months, and that's the truth. 2 months, 2.5 months. From that particular time on, there is an actual person there. There is a soul there. There is a spirit there. There is a being there. Up until that time, it is mostly the appendage of the mother. That's just the way that it is. Now, how that happens, only those who make souls can tell you how that soul comes to be. You know, but about 2.5 months. Now, let's see. If someone saw a spirit and he was smoking a pipe, I think, what would that signify? Or is it that just significant to the spirit? It's obviously significant to that particular spirit. Maybe he smoked a pipe always. You should look for other things, though, like, can you smell the pipe? Can you see the smoke? Is it actually moving, and did it notice you? Did it try to interact with you? Okay. Let's see. This is interesting. The bad guys are always seeming to be looking for a virgin sacrifice. Is there something special about a virgin's energy? And if so, what? Is it the same for a boy virgin, or is it just the girl? It's the same. You're talking about a particular energy that is more, not necessarily clean, but unmixed. Okay? And when you're talking about the bad guys, there were those that called themselves the good guys that were doing that as well. When it comes to that particular thing, anytime there's a sacrifice, it's not good. You know, it's just not. But they are always looking for something virginal because they believe it to be cleaner than quote-unquote non-virginal. And yes, it is the same for a boy or a girl. You're talking about some very, very old magic, and magic that hopefully is no longer practiced, although I know in some places they run really close to practicing it. It's best to try to stay away from that particular type of thing, because when you do blood magic, you doom yourself to blood magic. It's not a great thing. Okay? Regarding the babies, are the souls recycled? I would not look at it that particularly simple. The souls are evolved, and hopefully they are evolved at least. On one end, if you're talking about something very technical or something very uneventful, I guess you could look at it as recycled, but not necessarily recycle. Remember, recycle means to be destroyed and turned into something else. The soul is not destroyable. It will grow and evolve and adapt and then return until it no longer does that. Now, many of us, especially those of a Christian belief, think that the only thing that happens is you wait in this huge waiting room until it's time to go to heaven. You know, well, that may be true, but there are some lessons that are learned before then. And we call those particular lessons that happen, or the event that enables that to happen, reincarnation. Whether someone believes in it or not, again, is irrelevant. It is what it is. You know, you can believe all day that the moon doesn't exist. It's still there. Now, recycled wouldn't be the precise term. It would be more like migrated. if you will, to the next body. And even that is an oversimplification. The body has to fit the soul. The soul has to fit the body. The timing has to fit the body and soul. Even the body itself has a certain makeup that will enable a certain soul to exist just the way that it is. Now, I'm sure that you all have lots of questions. I really like the questions tonight, by the way. If you come up with more than that, that enables me to actually teach you. I have to say goodnight to all of the young people. And you all know who you are, okay? And I like when you all are here. For those of you that are adults, please make sure that you take into consideration that there might be children listening. And that these children are very, very intelligent. And they, too, are spiritual beings. We do not begin being spiritual beings when we get to a certain age. We are always spiritual beings. We do not stop being a spiritual being at a certain age. We are always spiritual beings. But remember, as I said, the very first level of spirituality is reality. Try not to forget that. And understand that even though there is good and evil, there is also that which enables us to move onward and upward, if you will, to evolve. We like to separate things, such as paranormal, mysticism, magic, metaphysics, spiritual. They are all the same. Listen, again, they are all the same. Even though we like to take and choose sides, well, I'm purely scientific, then you've got to be metaphysical, because there's no science without metaphysics. Well, you know, I take the scientific approach as opposed to art. Listen, art is the mother of science. Remember that. They're all the same. And whether you're in a dreaming life or a waking life, they all have to do with each other. No matter what dimension that you like to operate in, they are all part of the same world. Remember, you cannot separate them. If you try to separate them, then you've missed the point. It's kind of like trying to describe the Tao. The Tao is the Tao. If you can describe it, you've missed it. Yet at the same time, it will describe itself to you. Just accept that there is so much to our world, and that there are different dynamics to this particular world. Remember that. Whether it be something that you want to study about angels, or something you want to study about demons. Remember, they even call the study of angels demonology. You know, so demon can mean a lot of things. However, there's a specific being that is called Malefica, a demon. One of those people that, one of those personages is just pure evil. And at the same time, what we call angel is pure good. There's a full spectrum for us to study and to learn. Be open to all of it. And you know something? If you are open to all of it, you'll be able to properly discern. You'll be able to pick and choose. And it's all up to you and no one else. So, until next time we meet, thank you all. And this is Ask the Unicorn. I'm Ahura Z. I'll see you next week. Namaste.